dropped on a sunny Friday morning here in Atlanta, Georgia, June 28th, and it is a packed weekend preview edition of SDH. All the things this weekend that starts today at 3 o'clock with the U.S. women and France in maybe the most anticipated Women's World Cup match outside of a final in history. We're going to start there, but we're also going to talk about the weekend around Major League Soccer. We're going to talk about the U.S. men's national team in the Gold Cup. Quarterfinals start on Sunday. Oh, yeah, and the local team, Atlanta United, has a big match against Montreal tomorrow. We're going to get into that, too. We've got Mike Conti and Doug Robertson joining us in hour number 2 to get ready for Atlanta, but we've also got Jarrett Smith joining us, and he's going to try not to torture your ears. We've talked about this. No cats will be harmed in the making of the show. And there wasn't any yesterday, by the way, so don't get any ideas.
I came back and 30 minutes into my first visit to SDH there, we get what amounts to an intervention.
Yeah, not even 30 minutes. Yeah, I think you got about 10 minutes in, and then everybody was going bananas. So we're good, and Jarrett's going to be in and out this morning, but we're going to talk first about the game today. United States and France. Women's World Cup quarterfinal. Everybody, when the bracket was announced, when the draw happened, and you start looking ahead, and you're like, okay, they can finish first here. Okay, they're going to finish first here. All right, who's going to play? And quarterfinal, Paris, United States and France. And that was pretty much the reaction once everybody got to that point. And this is where we're at now. Looks like it's going to be, according to French reports, about 30,000 French fans and about 10,000 U.S. fans in the building. Sold out. Tickets are going for pretty large amounts on the secondary market. I mean, John, it's as big of a women's match as we've seen outside of a World Cup final or an Olympic final.
And this, I'm going to try to trim any kind of hyperbolic statements, but when it comes to Goliath, as it has been promoted by certain networks who are rights holders, and all of the Davids that seem to be chasing after said Goliath, this is example 1A, and maybe 1B of that chance for the rest of the world, which we know who is catching up to the United States, to sit there on the world stage and sit there and go, look, we're not just catching up, we caught up. And, there are numbers that are out there about how the U.S. women's national team is playing teams outside the FIFA top 20 rankings and inside the top 20 rankings and things like that. And you go back to the Spain matchup last round of 16, and I know that people had the question marks over their heads where the U.S. national team was concerned over that one. So should there be apprehension if you're a fan of the Stars and Stripes? Yeah, there should, for a bunch of different reasons. But this is going to be this is must-see viewing. So if you can get any kind of excuse from either a doctor or a boss, or maybe we should come up with an excuse note, something like that. This is definitely must-see by us.
No, everybody's done it. So it's an old played-out tactic. We're not doing that.
Okay, well then we'll just say, get off work, leave early, find a reason, find a TV, maybe find a TV at work.
Yeah, we said that Monday, so hopefully people prepared.
It's a reinforcement.
One thing I will push back: if you're not out of work now, you're going to have some problems. One thing I'm going to push back on about the game with Spain, and I've seen it where both sides. Well, the U.S. was in control of the game the whole way. No. I've seen it where, the U.S. was on the ropes and played terribly. No. Spain is really good. So yes. About question marks over – but this is the thing, John. Question marks over your head about the Spain performance? No, you played a really good team. It wasn't easy. You got through. That's where you're at, and that's where you get into this weird situation about the United States women's national team, because in some ways – they're expected to dominate everybody and win 5-0. Everybody. Doesn't matter if it's Spain, doesn't matter if it's Nicaragua, doesn't matter. 5-0 minimum, that's accepted. If it's not that, then that's a failure. But then there's the other side that, hey, the rest of the world is catching up too. So we've got to, I think, be clear about it in that, yes, the U.S. is number one ranked in FIFA. Yes, the U.S. has lost one match in the last 50. Yes, they're the defending World Cup champions. All those things are 100% true. I think their roster is as good as any roster in the tournament. It doesn't mean they're invincible, and the rest of the world has caught up, but they haven't passed the U.S. yet. That part is true. They have not, because one country's got the World Cup trophy. Now, they're playing the country that is hosting the World Cup this time around, so it's not going to be easy. I mean, Jarrett, we've went round and round about the U.S. women's national team over the last probably 6 months, and a lot of that started with France beating the United States 3-1 back in January, the only loss the U.S. has had in the last 50. That grabs your attention, and it shows that this is a game today that is by no means an easy pick.
Yeah, what's funny to me is, like, we talked up this game because, this was the game, like you said, everybody looked forward to. And we've talked it up. Man, how confident is anybody about going to play England right now? Like, because everybody kind of wrote this matchup as, hey, this is whoever gets this is going to end up in the final. Like, England has something to say about that right now because of what England did to Norway yesterday. I would not. You could be forgiven for thinking whoever wins this game is going to have their hands. It just means they're going to get out of whatever the hell happens of this. What should be a really fun, entertaining, emotional match. They're going to have to pull all the pieces back together and go play an England team that has zero problem not only beating you, but as Phil Neville did yesterday, making a sub in the 60-something and 70th minute for another attacking player and burying you in the ground.
And, yeah, the U.S. has that too with the firepower off the bench. But I think there's 4 favorites to win this trophy, and 2 of them are playing today. England and Germany are the other 2 that are favorites to lift the trophy out of who's left. The Netherlands-Italy winner will have something to say about Germany, but Germany to me is a cut above either one. And I feel like the Dutch are, as the defending European champions, should get past Italy. That side of the bracket feels a little more cut and dried, but you're dead on this side because whoever gets through today, I don't think it's going to be an easy one. And then you're looking ahead to England, where England, a lot of people started questioning England, and I thought it was foolish because when the bracket came out and I looked at it, and this is even before Norway put on their best performance of the tournament where they beat Australia, England's a cut above anybody on that half of this side of the bracket. If it had been Australia, they were disappointing in this tournament, were poor defensively. England could exploit that. Norway is a good team, but they don't have that amazing player like a Lucy Bronze. They just don't have that type of quality. So England was always going to be better than that. England has went through these 2 games 3-0 against Cameroon and against Norway. They haven't really had to use up a ton of energy. They're in a really good spot because France had to suffer through a Brazil win. U.S. had to suffer through a Spain win. Whoever wins today is going to have to suffer through it. And then you're going to go face an England team that's sitting back and chilling and waiting on you. That's going to be difficult, but that's ahead. You can't even start thinking about that yet because, Jarrett, you got to get past France today if you're the United States. And this is the team that I think has zero fear in facing you.
They should. I mean, they shouldn't have any fear. This is also a France team that hasn't necessarily been wildly impressive, I guess, from what people... I think people expected them to roll. They expected the USA, I think, as well, to roll through their first elimination games, through their group stages, and then this would be the big battle. And it hasn't worked out that way. That's fine. I mean, give credit to Spain. For what they did against the United States. But give credit to both these teams, though, for gutting out wins because, look, that's what's going to have to happen today. That's what's going to happen. Whoever wins this game has to go play England. And it depends on which, how do you want to twist the narrative of, oh, well, England's going to be rested for whoever they play in this game could also twist it around if you really wanted to. Whether or not people join you on that is their prerogative. But does the battle test actually help the USA or France, whoever gets out of this game today, going into the England game where they're going to be more used to it more recently of dealing with what's going to be a really intense game when it comes to England? Because, because I think we would ask the same question of England or of the United States if they were in England's shoes. Oh, well, they've rolled through two teams who they just overmatched. What happens when they have to play somebody who pushes back?
Yeah, I mean, I think we asked that out of the group stage, and Spain showed that, hey, they're not invincible when you get into these stages, and the U.S. did the job against Spain. It wasn't an easy job. It wasn't. I really don't think the United States played poorly in that game. I give a lot of credit to Spain and how they played to make it difficult for the U.S. So I want to focus on today because I do think that this is a different level of taking something out of you. And I think both teams, U.S. and France, kind of had that wake-up call a little bit in the round of 16 of, okay, group stage is over. Now we're playing for keeps. Brazil gave France everything they could handle. They found a way through. Henry gets the goal on a set piece for the U.S. Spain gave them everything they could handle. U.S. gets the early penalty. It gets answered back on a mistake. Then the U.S. has to fight and find another penalty, and they do, and they get through narrowly. Both teams had to suffer in those games. Who has to step up, John, for you, for the U.S. today against France to get the win and move on?
I have two, and one is more related to action last time than it is an overall addressing of the individual and performance. I've got to say Megan Rapinoe steps up today, and I know that she's fired up and, all that kind of stuff. Great. I know you're a veteran. You've done things. But match to match, going from the Spain match to today, Megan Rapinoe to me has to step up. And then I'm also looking at Alyssa Nair. If she's challenged, how does she respond? So those, for me, are the two players that I'm looking at. It's my pick of Rapinoe is not an overall indictment of the player over some kind of a long list of matches, but I'm specifically going knockout to knockout. And for me, it's the experience of players like a Rapinoe and knowing that France with Le Sommer and Henry and set pieces and all of this kind of stuff, I think that Alyssa Nair is going to be challenged today, so I'm going to go with those two.
Yeah, I don't think Rapinoe played badly against Spain. I think she went up against a right back in Corredera who struggled early and then was able to raise her game and match Rapinoe and limit that side. What worries me, it's not so much an individual player, is that the U.S. gets so focused on attacking down the flanks because that's where Rapinoe and Tobin Heath are creative and make things happen. When teams take that away, how does the U.S. change it up? They're just far more reluctant to attack through the middle, and that's going to have to change. I think they have to add a few more dimensions to the attack because France will be ready for this. France, I would be willing to bet both teams have, while they've prepared game after game in this tournament, I would bet that they've both had scouts and staff looking ahead to this match because this was far more likely than anything else in the quarterfinal stage. Scouting reports are pretty thorough at this point, and this was one that both teams could really count on happening. So France is going to be ready to deal with that. How does the U.S. respond? And that's why I look at the question about what the United States does in the middle. Yeah. And I'm going to include the back line on this because there's been a lot of speculation over the last 24 hours about Julie Ertz moving to the back line, replacing Becky Sauerbrunn. That way you get Mewis, Horan, and Lavelle in the midfield. I'm not so sold on that, to be honest. You do have to figure out your spacing in the middle of the park, and it's between your center backs and your three central midfielders because whether it's Ertz or Horan or Mewis as that defensive pivot in front of the back four, there's been a bad tendency in this tournament to get separated from the back line. And I feel like this is the kind of game where a player like Amadine Henry can thrive in that space and really hurt you in that type of space. I think she's such a savvy player that if it gets disconnected, if the U.S. starts either overcommitting forward and getting caught, or just players are not tactically responsible enough, Henry can punish them in those spots. France is really good on set pieces, and I think that's going to be another storyline today, and that's where you do need a player like Julie Ertz to have a big night, because she's probably going to be dealing a lot with Wendy Renard, and that's a difficult mark for anybody in the women's game. And France has scored over half of their goals on set pieces, so that's going to come into play for sure. But in the run of play, I look at the middle and what Jill Ellis does with it. I'd rather start Ertz in the midfield, Sauerbrunn Dahlkemper behind her, and then it's a question of, is it Mewis, is it Horan, is it Lavelle? It's 3 players. You can only play 2 of them. I would lean to Mewis and Horan to start, and I'd have Lavelle off the bench. That's where I would go with it. Jarrett, let me ask you a question specifically about the lineup, though, because this is another bit of speculation that's been going around. Alex Morgan took a beating in the Spain match. She's had injuries throughout the tournament. Do you start her today, or is this the game that you start Carly Lloyd?
I'm not starting Alex Morgan today. So I'm a slide against Alex Morgan. It's the fact that she just got beaten to a pulp last time out. And if I'm France, I'm going to do the same thing Spain did. I'm just going to beat her into submission. And then, it's just, I'm not doing that because I don't know how much she can give me in terms of physicality. She's not 100%. I think that was pretty obvious in the last game. My question then becomes, you talked about starting Lloyd. Do you start Lloyd and see how much she can give you? Or do you start Kristen Press and try and bring Lloyd on later and pick her spot?
I would start Lloyd. I think in a game like this, with facing the only opponent that's beaten you in the last 50, you need that swagger. And Carly Lloyd's got it. I think she comes into this team today and gives them an attitude that they need. I think Lloyd's got the fitness too to go deep into it. I'm not worried about her fitness so much. I would rather do that and then bring on a Kristen Press or a Mallory Pugh or Alex Morgan to run at a tired French backline. Let Lloyd wear him out. And Lloyd's also sneaky good in the air. And that would be useful as well if you do find some success out wide and putting crosses in. Lloyd's a player, even against a 6'2 center back like Renard, Lloyd's a player who can find space and get you goals out of the air. So I would start Carly Lloyd and then be looking at Press and Pugh and Morgan as potential reserves. One good point in Total Football Analysis that I retweeted the article a little bit ago on my Twitter account at Longshoe. They talk about the U.S. press, and this is where I think the United States has a big advantage in this one. France has looked like they've struggled with pressure both off the field and being the hosts and dealing with those expectations, but also on the field at times where teams have been able to step up and press their back line and force them into some pretty big mistakes. That's one thing the United States is really, really strong at. And when you have Rapinoe, either Morgan or Lloyd or Press up top with Tobin Heath, and you get very athletic outside backs like Kelly O'Hara, Crystal Dunn, who can step up high but then still recover and have plenty of room to get back, and you have a player like Julie Ertz who can slide between the midfield and the back line no problem, you can be really aggressive in that press. And I think early, that's the way the United States needs to play. Not look to dominate possession, look to press France and cause those mistakes when they're going to be dealing with a lot of stuff that I don't think this French team has played in an environment like this in this moment. And I think the U.S. can exploit that, John.
No, I think you're right. And with the bench that Jill Ellis has, and when you were getting into the Carly Lloyd question and you're rolling off not one name but 3, to have a bench like you have, you can go ahead and try to put the pedal down early and force France into doing things that they're not comfortable in doing in the environment that they're going to be in. So I think that this presents an opportunity for the U.S. to get on the front foot early, create opportunities, create chances, create turnovers. And if you get up early in that building against the French, it forces them to think a little harder and try to come up the hill as opposed to being on an even footing early on.
And I think in a game like this, you can exploit France's lack of experience in these moments. And it's something Jill Ellis talked about yesterday, and I thought Jill nailed the press conference about this. And she had one of the best lines that I've heard about this type of situation. She talked about dealing with pressure, and she talked about how when players come into the program for the United States, there's always a target on their back. There's always somebody trying to win their spot. Every game's a big game because everybody wants to beat the U.S. And she said, you come in, you're in the spotlight right away. I think some teams will visit pressure, but I think we live there a lot. And that's part of the pride in the history of this program that has brought us to this point. That's the biggest difference between these two teams. I think France is a team that can 100% win this game. Before the tournament, I thought they were coming in better form, and they were the team that could come in and win this match based off what we saw back in January. But as we've seen the tournament play out, I feel like France has wilted a little bit under that pressure. They haven't raised their game to another level. I don't know if the U.S. has necessarily raised their game to another level, but I think they got back to where they needed to be, where I was a little concerned after some of the pre-tournament friendlies where they just weren't all that convincing, and it felt like kind of playing, just through the motions a little bit. The She Believes Cup, the U.S. not winning that, even though they didn't lose in the tournament, they didn't win the tournament. That set off some alarm bells for me, alongside that France win back in January, where it was a dominant French win. It wasn't a lucky win. It wasn't a fluky win. It was a dominant win. The U.S. has bounced back from all that. I think the United States wins today. I think it's close. I think dealing with pressure is going to help the United States. I think they're not going to be overawed by this, whether there's 30,000 French fans or 10,000, however that works out. The U.S. will be fine. I think France will struggle more with it. And if the U.S. can exploit it and take advantage of that, and for me, the player who this could be the day, and I've been waiting for this throughout the whole tournament because I think it's been a good tournament for her, but this feels like a game where she can really break out as Tobin Heath. Because if you press and you create those turnovers and you find Tobin Heath in space 1v1, Tobin Heath will make some highlight reels. And that's what you need here, is that type of swagger, and Tobin to, in some ways, not be such a great teammate and do all the sacrificing of positioning and looking for the pass. Be aggressive. Be just filthy with the dribbling 1v1 and create those opportunities. I want to see that from Tobin Heath today, and I think she can be ruthless like that and turn this game on its head. But France is going to get a goal off a set piece. I think it's a 2-1 in extra time kind of match. I'm really hoping it doesn't go to penalties. But this is going to be an all-out, incredible match. I really think they're pretty evenly matched. I really think it's going to be a fun one. And the atmosphere is going to be something that we just don't normally get with a, maybe not 50-50, but somewhat close to that. It's going to be a blast to watch. Make sure you're watching this. I think Twitter will be ablaze late this afternoon with all kinds of takes all over the place. So join in the conversation. I know we'll all be chatting about it. Jarrett, let me get a prediction from you on U.S. and France.
I'll be a homer about it. 2-1 U.S. in 90 minutes. Don't need extra time. But I don't think it's comfortable by any stretch of the imagination. I think the U.S. finds. I think U.S. hits early. Actually, France comes back and ties it. U.S. gets one middle late second half, and then it's a 10-minute hold on for dear life sort of situation with a number of set pieces. But I think U.S. survives for 90 minutes. In
Daniel
what shape
Price
they will be, who knows?
Daniel Price is scared because we're picking the U.S. Daniel, you need to get a dog so you're not so scared. It's all good. Like, the U.S. should win this game. That's the thing about where this program is. They should. They're the. I think they're the deeper team. I think they're the better team. They should win this game, and to say that they should, that goes back to what Jill Ellis said. Like, this is not in a new place for the program. So they've answered most of the questions I had coming into the tournament. Now, we're not going to get into what would be next, but what I do worry about is whoever comes out of this game. I think Jarrett, had a good question about, are they battle tested, and does that help them in the next match against England? Because England hasn't really been battle tested in the knockout stages. The flip side is they could be really beat up and really drained. And if it's an extra time match, then that's 30 more minutes of that against a team who's got an extra day of rest. Those things could factor in for sure.
I'm also curious how this game is called. Is it going to be called like Spain, where it kind of gets a little Thunderdome-y at times in terms of the physicality? If you have an official today who kind of lets things go, and is it very quick with the cards and lets those fouls pile up? I expect both teams to take advantage. I wish U.S. had taken more advantage of it against Spain than they did. But if you got an official who lets it go and everybody starts just, if we get the equivalent of what we thought China and Italy was going to be, I don't know what shape anybody's going to be in going into England if that's the sort of game.
Yeah, and that's what you could see here. That's what's going to be interesting. The referee is Katarina Monsul from the Ukraine. She refereed the final in 2015, U.S. and Japan, which, I really can't think of anything out of that one. The U.S. got so many goals early that it was kind of a weird game. She also had the U.S.-Nigeria group match in 2015. The VAR is Danny McKelly from the Netherlands. He's been on a lot of games in this tournament. So very experienced, one of the more experienced VARs in the tournament. John, prediction?
Does this fall into the Copa Especial category?
No, it doesn't. Stop worrying about that and just make a prediction based off what you think.
Well, I'm just going to stick with what I've been saying all the way through, and I'm going to go 2-1 France in a shootout.
2-1 France in a shootout. What kind of shootout? In a penalty shootout? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, penalty. Sorry, goes to penalties, and they win 2-1.
Okay, so wait a minute. So it's a 1-1 game in regulation and extra time,
yes.
And then France wins the penalty shootout. Okay, got it.
Yes.
All right. We will see. It's going to be a fun one. So 3 o'clock is kick. I think all your pregame stuff starts at 2 o'clock, and there will be lots to talk about. We'll have a World Cup date afterwards as well where we get all into it. If you haven't had a chance to hear yesterday's, check it out after the show. Myself and Jessica, we talked about the England win and how dominant it was and started to look ahead to U.S. and France. So check that out on the network after this show, and we're going to take a quick break and come back and talk some Major League Soccer right after this.
Today's show is presented by Apelinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, June 28th. Friday weekend preview of all the soccer everywhere. And Major League Soccer back with a full weekend of action. It starts tonight, actually. 8 o'clock, the New York Red Bulls hosting the Chicago Fire. There's some rumblings in Chicago, and I really don't put much stock into it. The Veljko Paunovic is in trouble. They just signed him to a new 3-year deal. It wouldn't make any sense for him to be in trouble at this point. And they haven't really been bad this season. I mean, Chicago's been okay. The Red Bulls have been up and down, but they've been in much better form as of late. They've won 4 of their last 6. They're the hosts in this one. Bradley Wright Phillips has been back training. Not sure if he will be back in the team tonight. That's probably unlikely. Maybe available off the bench. Red Bulls are missing Aaron Long, Michael Murillo, Kamar Lawrence, Derek Etienne to Gold Cup duty. Chicago missing Francisco Calvo and Jordi Mihailovic to Gold Cup duty. Johan Kappelhoff is questionable for Chicago. I think the Red Bulls should take care of business here. It feels, kind of like a 2-0 kind of win in my mind. What are the juice box purveyors saying, John?
Juicebox purveyors, courtesy of our friends at Bet365. Red Bulls to win outright plus 105. Fire to win outright plus 250. If you get the draw option with Chicago, it's minus 125, but I'm with you. I think it's the Red Bulls 2-0, if not 2-1. Yeah,
I just feel like Chicago is not going to have quite enough in this one. Mihailovic would have been a big help for them, and I'm not so sure they're going to really have a whole lot of other options. Late night tonight, 10 o'clock on Unimas. Both of these games are on Unimas. Colorado hosting LAFC. Man, this is a crazy matchup. Thought it would be just a ridiculous, who cares kind of matchup about a month ago. But then Connor Casey showed up. And Connor Casey has Colorado unbeaten in their last 6. 4-0-2. LAFC also 4-0-2 in their last 6. Can Colorado do this tonight? You look at the lineups and who's going to be available. Colorado will be missing Jonathan Lewis. Declan Wynn is also out injured. For LAFC, they are missing Tyler Miller, Walker Zimmerman, Mark Anthony Kaye, Peter Lee Vassell. They're also missing Danilo Silva and Javier Perez. It's a lot of people missing for LAFC. Can Colorado continue to ride the Connor Casey effect? Jarrett, you seem to like the Western Conference teams that have been historical strugglers. So what do you think about the Connor Casey effect?
I like the Connor Casey effect. I like it for a draw in this game.
That'd be
as much result. As LAFC. What's up?
That'd be a good result.
It would be a good result. I like it for a draw. LAFC still happens to have one player who did not go to the Gold Cup, and he's kind of pacing the universe in goals and assists. And, I mean, it's a combination of Carlos Vela is really, really good at his job. And also he's living right. He's been getting a lot of gifts this year to go along with the times where he just cuts people to pieces. I don't like the idea of Carlos Vela having to, I don't like the idea of Tim Howard having to stop Carlos Vela continuously. So no. I don't think he's going to keep him off the sheet. But I think Colorado's got enough here to I think I've got enough here to get the draw out with what LAFC is missing, and we can kind of get a peek at LAFC needs to stay healthy because there would be problems if they don't stay healthy. And the second half of the season, I want to see how teams handle LAFC. Do they start just basically saying, no, we're not going to let you run all over us. We're just going to pack it in the same way teams did at Mercedes-Benz in the past.
That's what I'll be really curious to see about Colorado tonight. How defensive are they? Or since they're at home, does Connor Casey say, you know what, we're going up against a team that's missing a couple of center backs. They're missing Mark Anthony Kaye, who makes everything work in the midfield. Let's run at him and see what happens. You do have to worry when you look at a front line that LAFC can throw at you of Carlos Vela, Diamande, and Diego Rossi with Lee Wynn and Latif Blessing behind them. That's some firepower. I think a draw would be an amazing result for Colorado here. John, what's Bet365 thinking?
Colorado to win outright plus 333. LAFC to win outright minus 150. Colorado in the draw, if you can get it, at plus 125. The over-under at 2.5. Yeah. The over-under is 2.5, and the over is playing at minus 225.
Yeah, the over is where I would go with it for sure, because I think LAFC, with missing so many defensively, they're going to concede a goal or maybe two, and Colorado up against that attack is going to concede a goal or maybe two. I would go 2-2 draw if I had to put a prediction down on paper. It's going to be it could be a really fun one at 10 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow, things get started in Minnesota, 4 o'clock on ESPN. The Loons are hosting Cincinnati. Feels like Minnesota should be able to take care of business here. Cincinnati has just been an absolute mess, and the longer it takes them to figure out who is going to be in charge going forward, the more that mess continues to grow. Minnesota winning at home would feel like a pretty easy selection on this one.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for Alan Pardew. Minnesota United, minus 225. FC Cincinnati to win outright, plus 550. Oof. The draw option with FC Cincinnati is plus 180.
Still wouldn't touch it.
Nope.
Yeah, it still wouldn't even. No, Minnesota.
That's
I think
a wide margin.
That's
a wide margin, even with the draw option. So I'm looking 3-0, if not 3-1.
Yeah, I think it's a comfortable Minnesota win. Big time match in the Eastern Conference at 7 o'clock. New York City hosting Philadelphia. Philadelphia, over their last 3 league matches, they came back to get 2 wins. They came back to get a draw at New England on Wednesday. It's a scrappy Philadelphia Union bunch. NYC under Dome Tarrant has figured things out. They're much, much better this season. Once they got Hebert in, once they started to play in this 3-4-3. We'll see if that continues here after the break. Jarrett, these are 2 teams that I think are going to be there at the end of the season in the Eastern Conference. Is this a bit of a statement game for either team?
I had to take a playoff preview as a description as well. I think that could absolutely be what you're looking at here, but I think it could be a statement. I mean, Philadelphia's got to start turning these draws into wins, though. You salvaged the draw the other night. That's good. Better than losing. Better than what Atlanta did. But you got to know that Atlanta's going to be coming as they get everybody healthy and back from the Gold Cup. Red Bull's going to be coming as they get everybody healthy and back from the Gold Cup. It would behoove Philadelphia to create as much of a cushion as possible. And putting a statement down against a New York City team that looks rejuvenated, even though they're losing, it looks like they've lost a bit of attacking power with the injury up top. They're still getting Gary Mackay-Steven in. Don't know how long it's going to take him to get integrated in. But that's another kind of Johnny Russell-esque guy, and not just because he's Scottish, but because of how he plays. I think this is a good chance for Philadelphia to go get those points and create a bit of cushion and run and hide, because as other teams get healthier and get their players back to the second half of the season when they have games in hand on you, you're going to need it. Philadelphia's going to need it.
You talk about turning draws into wins. New York City's in that situation as well. They've only lost once this season. They've only won 5 times. The other 8 have been draws. They've got to start picking up some 3 points. I think they do here. I think Philadelphia will be good and is not going anywhere. But New York City at home, I think they get the 3 points and keep climbing up the Eastern Conference. What does Bet365 say, John?
NYCFC to win outright, plus 110. The
Ooh.
draw option is plus 260. Philadelphia to win outright, plus 230. If you get the draw option with Philadelphia, goes to minus 134. The over-under at 2.5 and the overs at minus 143. Both teams to score the yes is minus 163.
So that's really interesting. So they really don't know what's going to happen here.
Nope.
Because they've got a plus on the draw and both teams winning. Even New York City at home to win is on
Close
the plus side. Not by much, but it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the draw out of if you've got juice boxes lying around, the draw really sounds like a pretty good one if you're looking at something to play.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And, yeah, exactly.
Columbus and Orlando, 7:30. That's the next one. Orlando was Wayne Rooney'd over the weekend with a goal, or midweek with a goal from 60, 65 yards. Was that officially measured?
67.
67. Oh, it was officially measured. It's a long way. And Orlando really has problems with Wayne Rooney doing special things from long distances at Audi Field. Columbus has just been a team that's not a lot of fun to watch right now. 4 losses out of the last 5. A draw is the other result. Orlando, 2-2 in their last 4. I would really be tempted to look at Orlando on the road here because Columbus, I don't know who they are long term. I really don't know who they are without Will Trapp and Jossie Zardes in the middle of the field. What are the juice boxes thinking?
Juice boxes are looking at the short week from Orlando City. Columbus Crew to win, even money. Draw, plus 230. Orlando City to win outright, plus 280. The draw option with Orlando City, minus 120.
That Orlando win on the road number is an appealing one. I just have no faith in Columbus at this point. So
nope.
That's a sketchy one to even look at too deeply. New England hosting Houston. And New England, back-to-back home games. Houston was on the West Coast on Wednesday. Now they're in Foxborough on Saturday. They're missing all of their key attacking players. This feels like a pretty comfortable New England win. I would be shocked if the juice boxes are thinking anything otherwise.
Juice boxes are pretty similar to Columbus and Orlando, believe it or not. The Revs to win, even money. Draw plus 250. Houston to win outright plus 260. The draw with the Dynamo minus 120.
Not touching the Dynamo, period. It doesn't matter. You can make that number whatever you want to make it. Not touching Houston in this game. Not coming across the country against the New England team that's sat at home. No, not doing it. No way. DC and Toronto, 8 o'clock, Audi Field. Toronto gets the win over Atlanta. DC gets the win over Orlando. DC doesn't have to travel. Toronto does. I think DC has been the better team over the last couple of months for sure. Although they had 3 draws coming into that Orlando match. They've only got 1 loss in their last 6, but they've only got 1 win. And Toronto, 1 win, 3 losses, 2 draws over the last 6. The win on Wednesday was their first since May 8th when they were in Orlando. This feels like a home win. Feels like a 2-1 kind of home win. What do you think?
I agree. Juice box purveyors have DC United plus 110, draw plus 250, Toronto to win plus 230, Toronto with the draw option minus 134.
Yeah, I really can't rationalize going Toronto here. I really think it is DC at home, not having to travel. I think those things help them a lot. 10 o'clock. 2 really big games at 10 o'clock on Saturday night. Real Salt Lake hosting Sporting Kansas City. Sporting, I have not looked at their injury list as of late. It's been war and peace for most of this season. It's reportedly been getting a little bit better, but I don't know how much better. Real Salt Lake at home is a much different team than when they're on the road. feels like a draw, though. Maybe they cancel each other out. Maybe I'm just moved because Sporting Kansas City, even with the injuries, they're 2-1-3 in their last 6. They've been grinding out some results. Now, when they get healthy, they're going to really not have a whole lot of room for error. They're going to have to start picking up some wins. But I think they can go out and get a result in Utah. What is Bet365 saying, John?
Bet365, Real Salt Lake to win outright, +110. Draw, +240. Sporting to win outright, +240. Draw option with Sporting, -134.
Man, that's a tough one. If you're a degenerate, you might be looking for something on this one. I would probably
over
stay
under
away
at
from
2.5 is -150.
Yeah, I would probably stay away from it.
Yeah.
The game that I know Jarrett will be watching on Saturday night with his parlay kit in tow. The Cali Classico, live from Stanford. San Jose hosting the LA Galaxy. San Jose comes in unbeaten in their last 5, 3 wins in that stretch. LA Galaxy come in with 3 wins out of their last 4, although the drumbeat of Zlatan being Zlatan on the weird side seems to be growing in LA, and I'll be curious to keep an eye on this one as the season goes on. Jarrett, how about your Quakes? Are they going to get it done here?
I'm so glad y'all saw that the parlay kit exists. I just needed to make sure that was real. I think they do get it done because Almeida's just made this team fun to watch. I think they keep doing well with it, and more importantly, I think the Zlatan being Zlatan thing is starting to erode a bit on that LA side. And if you get another game out here against the Quakes where he doesn't put one in the back of the net, I could see it kind of getting a little tense there. And it feels right that we could end up with a situation where LA just explodes like a bad pressure cooker at literally the worst possible moment near the end of the season, at like a pivotal moment. Because, man, with the little comments coming out, it's like, oh, that's the pea that's dropped off the mountain that forms the snowball at the bottom of the hill that hits you.
Yeah, the thing about Zlatan is I think the results have kind of papered over it as of late, but if you go into a pressure cooker like this one, which, the Cali Classico is always that, no matter where these teams are in the standings. It's always that kind of game. And if it doesn't go your way, it feels like those issues that have been bubbling up to the point that you're getting comments made are going to explode. I think San Jose wins this. I think they do it in some stylish fashion, to be honest. And the post-game comments out of the Galaxy locker room could be incredibly interesting afterwards. I don't know if Bet365 is anything on that part of it, but what do they think about the result?
San Jose to win, even money. Draw, +260. Galaxy to win outright, +250. Draw with the Galaxy is -120. The over-under at 2.5. The over is -188. And yes, the Galaxy to me do seem like that deep-fried turkey in the pressure cooker out back that the guy doesn't know how to use.
Yeah, I think so. 2 more. Cascadia rivalry, not the one that gets all the headlines, but the Seattle-Vancouver variety at 10 o'clock Saturday night. Vancouver just keeps finding ways to get results. You look at their last 6. They haven't lost in their last 6. They've only won 1 of them. 5 draws in their last 6. They just keep finding a way to steal a point. Seattle's lost their last 3, and Seattle is missing some folks at the moment. I kind of wonder if Vancouver can pull the upset in Seattle in this one. I would love to know what the juice boxes are saying about that.
They disagree with you. Full-time results, Seattle to win outright -188, the draw at +300. Vancouver to win outright +550.
Oh, that's an exciting number.
Draw plus the white caps are at +160, and the over at 2.5 is -143.
We don't have a sponsor for the long shot of the week, but that would be it.
Long shot.
Yeah, that's the one that would be the long shot of the week. Presented by, I don't know, Slim Jim.
Tape measures.
Something.
Presented by Red Dog.
Yeah, presented by Red Dog. That's it. Red Dog barely exists, so I don't think they can come at us for that. The long shot of the week, presented by Red Dog, is Vancouver winning outright in Seattle. I could absolutely see that happening. Sunday night.
Long shot.
11 o'clock. Portland, FC Dallas. From Providence Park, Portland went to Montreal, fielded a team of mostly reserves. When Claude Dielna's in the lineup and getting torched on a run, you know it is not the first-choice lineup for the Timbers. They lose that one. They come back home to face Dallas with their first choice, as much of a first choice as you can have at the moment with players away. Portland's not hit too bad by that. Brian Fernandez has been lighting it up for them. Dallas is back to mostly close to full strength as well, with so many of their U20s back in the fold. This could be a really fun match to watch. Late night Sunday night, 11 o'clock Eastern kick. What does Bet365 think?
Portland to win outright minus 163. The draws plus 275. FC Dallas to win outright almost. This would be your long shot number 2 plus 475.
No,
the draw
option. No, it's not the long shot. I wouldn't touch that. The long shot is one that you actually might want to do. Like that's the difference here. I mean, we could just pull out numbers, but I mean, you could put Orlando going to LAFC, and I'm sure it's like a minus 600, or plus 600, but I'm not touching that. That's the difference.
No shot.
Vancouver could win in Seattle.
And then the draw option with FC Dallas is at plus 130. 2.5 on your total. Overs at minus 163.
So your picks from the Garlic Bread Warlord, he's chimed in on a few. He did pick France in regulation 2-1 because Nick Alifi, just wants to anger everybody. And his MLS picks, the special Garlic Bread picks of the week, he likes Orlando over Columbus 2-0, and he likes DC over Toronto 2-1.
So he doesn't give an Atlanta pick?
Picks of the week. Well, we haven't talked about Atlanta yet, John.
All right.
So why would he be giving picks on that yet? We haven't talked about it. We will be talking about it with Mike Conti in the next segment, with Doug Robertson of the AJC as well. Let's talk about the U.S. men's national team as well, though, too, because they play Sunday. They play Curacao. Should be a comfortable win, although Curacao has grabbed some headlines in this tournament, getting out of the group stage. Jared, I mean, is there anything that you're worried about at this stage when it comes to the U.S. men's national team and the Gold Cup? I think we've seen some better performances. I think generally people are feeling a little more positive about the men's side of things right now. That might change once we get past this one, but this feels like another fairly comfortable win for the United States.
It does, but it's also a CONCACAF, so really you can't take anything for granted. But
That's true.
It does feel like it should be a rather comfortable win, but I mean, I can see it getting scrappy. I can see a world where Curacao sucker punches you and gets one early and starts to dance and starts to feel good about life, and U.S. has to kind of put themselves back up, steady their feet, and dominate the game, which I think they can. But I think they'll be fine. I think they'll win this game. It might not necessarily be pretty at times, but I think overall you'll look back and go, yeah, they did the job.
It's an 8 o'clock kick on Sunday. The game before that is Jamaica and Panama. That feels like a slugfest. And the U.S. had to fight to get through Panama. They did. Josie Altidore with a great goal. Jamaica beat the U.S. in the pre-tournament friendlies. Either way, that's going to be a difficult semifinal for the United States. I think Jamaica is probably the better team here, although they've been a little bit of a disappointment in the Gold Cup.
Juicebox purveyors have two qualified.
No, they had
Panama
Gold Cup action.
Oh, yeah. Panama to qualify, minus 134. Jamaica even money. Full-time result, Jamaica plus 190. Draw plus 190. Panama plus 150. So they're anticipating that this one goes for a while.
Yeah, they're not thinking this one gets done in regulation. The game's on Saturday. We'll start with Haiti and Canada. Haiti wins the group, which surprised folks. Canada has been really good in this tournament. And remember, Canada kind of played some shenanigans with lineups against Mexico. They did not go complete full strength and sacrificed that game. Outside of that, they've looked really good. I think Canada takes care of Haiti and sets up a semifinal that we'll talk about in a second. I think Canada gets past Haiti fairly comfortably.
Minus 138 to win outright, minus 275 to qualify.
Yeah, that's about what I was thinking. And in Mexico, Costa Rica, look, Costa Rica's been disappointing in the tournament. They didn't win the group. Haiti did. That grabs your attention straight away. Mexico has been good, although the last group stage game, not so much. It's a big game because it's two teams that have a bit of a rivalry, but Mexico, I think, gets past this one maybe 3-1. I think they'll sweat a little bit, but it won't be too bad.
Full-time result, Mexico minus 250, and the over-under at 2.5. The under is minus 134.
I'd be tempted to go the over on that.
Over is at plus 105.
Yeah, so you're looking at semifinals if we're thinking these things. Mexico and Canada on one side and U.S. and Jamaica on the other. Those will be fun, and those will be intense. And the Gold Cup will find its next gear this weekend as we get into the knockouts of it. We haven't seen too much CONCACAF-iness, as Jarrett said. Got a feeling this tournament's going to make up for that in a big, big way this weekend. Before we go to break, last night, Miguel Almirón and Paraguay, they lost in penalties to Brazil. They had a red card. They defended like just absolute heroes to get it to penalties. No extra time in Copa America at this stage. Miguel converts his penalty. Paraguay had him on the ropes, and Derlis Gonzalez misses a penalty. Brazil converts on their last one, and Brazil moves on. But how about the defensive night from Paraguay, Jarrett? I know you were watching this one, and Miguel, good night for him. He converts his penalty, but Paraguay goes home.
It was just drunk, and it was amazing, and I loved everything about it. Brazil was starting to cut Paraguay open, and then Paraguay has a guy sit off, and Brazil's like, yeah, we're just going to approach this the same way Minnesota approached the Atlanta United game in 2018 when Atlanta United was down a guy. We're just going to pump the ball into the box. And, it didn't work. Well, it didn't work that time. Maybe if I punch this concrete wall over and over and over again, the concrete wall will just get up and leave. That didn't happen.
No.
And look what happens. I mean, you end up with a situation where Paraguay gets its penalties. They had a chance. Firmino drags his penalty wide. Paraguay has a
Yeah, that was a bad penalty from Firmino, and Paraguay did have that chance.
It's a valiant effort, and they deserve all the credit in the world.
Yeah, they took Brazil to the wire. They were unable to get it done.
Miguel Almirón giving the little link before his kick was great.
Yes,
that was quality. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back after this with Mike Conti in tow. We'll talk Atlanta and Montreal from the Bends. Hang out with us. We'll be right back after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, SDH on June 28th. It's a Friday preview. Everything is happening from 3 o'clock on, even before that, because the African Cup of Nations is going on. There's games everywhere, big games. One big game is going to be at Mercedes-Benz with Atlanta United hosting Montreal. We're going to get into that for sure with Mike Conti. But first, U.S. and France today at 3. This is the game that everybody was waiting for from the maybe 5 minutes after the draw happened, where you start looking ahead at where things go in the bracket, and you're like, oh, U.S., France, Paris, and now we get it. How excited are you about this one?
I'm so excited I could barely eat my third donut at breakfast today. It's one of those matches, and we talked about it yesterday at the airport. Like, I legitimately have butterflies for it. It's a very, very important match for women's soccer internationally. It's a very important match for women's soccer in this country. I think even on a micro scale here in Atlanta, just thinking about the possibility of the United States in the Women's World Cup final on the Halo board at the Benz before Atlanta United and Red Bulls next Sunday, and how special that could be. So there's a lot riding on it, and it just feels to me that this is going to be one that goes to pens or something weird's going to happen in extra time. It's going to go beyond the 90 minutes. I really strongly feel that way. And it's going to be probably the biggest test that the U.S. women's national team has had since the 2016 Olympics. And I'm going to be very curious to see how this group responds to it.
When you look at the women's national team, Mike, who's in the Mike Conti spot shadow today? I know that you're pretty geeked about it, and I know that third donut is waiting for you, especially for lunch or maybe after this segment's over.
No, it's a victory donut, John. It's a victory donut. It will only be consumed if there's a win.
Fair enough. So then who is in the Mike Conti spot shadow for this particular match today on the women's side?
Feels like this is going to be a low-scoring game. Feels like it's going to be a game that comes down to how the U.S. women's national team can defend set pieces, which really, really scares you with France. To me, it's Becky Sauerbrunn. To me, it's really everyone on that back line. But Sauerbrunn in particular, I think, is going to be someone that France will probably go at. And, we had talked about it Wednesday in Toronto about how Alyssa Nair is going to get a test, the likes of which she has not seen yet in this World Cup. So, it would be easy to pick out Alex Morgan, Carly Lloyd, Megan Rapinoe, the ones that are going to go out and score goals for you. For me, I think it's a little more backline oriented today. This just feels like one that's going to be maybe 1-1 after 90 minutes, going to extra time and then going to pens, a low-scoring, very tense, almost grinding type of match. And I want to see how the USA backline responds to this, and especially on set pieces. Because France is going to be able to get some shots on target off these set pieces. That's where Alyssa Nair again comes in. But like I said Wednesday, I feel very good about Alyssa Nair because when you need a win, when you need to get a W, just put all your faith and confidence in a Penn Stater, and everything will be all right.
There you go. You knew that was coming.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. All right. Big game Saturday. Kind of a weird one, too, because both teams have a similar amount of travel for this one. Both teams played on Wednesday, Atlanta and Montreal. Montreal's won 3 of their last 4, all at home. All of those were at home, 9 points out of their last 12. This is going to be their first trip in a while. They are missing quite a few pieces due to international duty, due to injury, but they got a huge performance on Wednesday from Orji Akwankwo from Nigeria, 21-year-old, who's on loan from Bologna. The second goal, the winner, was it should be in the goal of the year consideration. I think it's going to get lost in the shuffle. It was that good. It's kind of hard to predict what Montreal is going to bring to the table in this one.
Well, I think Montreal is going to, I hate to suggest it, probably play a line of 5 and a line of 4. It wouldn't shock me at all. And this is where I get really, really scared because last April, I think it was April the 28th at the Benz, Montreal got a weird goal off a throw-in. Very, very weird goal late in the first half off the throw-in, and then they bunkered. And Atlanta United had a really tough time breaking that down, and they needed basically some freak magic on a free kick by Kevin Kratz to finally unlock things. If Atlanta United gives up the first goal on Saturday, as they did on Wednesday, I would be very, very concerned because then it gives Montreal and Remy Gard a very straightforward game plan like we've seen a number of times this year where they're going to play a low block, and it's going to be very, very hard for Atlanta United to break that down. You felt like when Atlanta gave up the goal 30 seconds into the match on Wednesday, that was not a death sentence, that A, you had plenty of time, and B, Toronto was not going to be a team that would just kind of sit back and absorb pressure. I think Montreal would be that type of team. But you're right. They're finding a way to do this, and it's really very impressive. And to be quite honest with you, we're at midseason right now. So I think we can start talking about who's done the best coaching job, who's been the best player, who's been the best rookie, the biggest surprise in the first half of the season. The coaching job, the managerial job that Remy Gard has done with Montreal the first half of the season, to me, is not getting talked about enough. You lose easily your best player, one of the best players in this league, one of my favorite players in this league, Nacho Piatti. Jason, you mentioned how many guys they have out on international duty, key guys out right now, like Daniel Lovitz, and they're finding ways to keep winning. And, yeah, I mean, they have a negative goal difference because they gave up 7 to Kansas City, and they've had a couple matches where when they give up a goal, the floodgates tend to open. But the way that they play tactically, they're finding a way to make it work right now, and I think it's a big credit to Remy Gard, who probably at this time last year was not only in danger of losing his job, but may have lost his team. And something has happened over the last 12 months. They've made roster changes. There's no question about it. But he has found a way to make this group fit what he wants to do tactically. And all of a sudden now, with I think not a lot of people paying attention, Montreal can move to first place in the East if they win tomorrow night and Philadelphia draws or loses to New York City. We never would have thought going into July that Montreal would be leading the East, but here they are now with that chance.
Mike, let me bring the Toronto match forward toward the Montreal match. And, we may get into thoughts from what went down in the last 6+ minutes of the match later on, but that's fine. That's not where I was going with this.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Egan post-match, and this was a point that I asked Jason about last night when we were on, said that a match like the one against Toronto FC can be beneficial to players like a Brandon Vasquez and a Pity Martinez for different reasons. Brandon, because he's getting those reps up top, and yes, he needed to finish better, but there were those opportunities that he had to be integrated in the play, the assist on Julian's goal, etc. And for a guy like Pity, when you don't have an Escobar, when you don't have a Joseph, when you don't have a Barco, and you end up being the man and the focal point and the fulcrum for everything, I think that these kinds of matches can help those guys out when it comes to later on in the year. What was your takeaway from the lineup that was presented and how it could work as a positive going forward coming out of that result?
Yeah, interesting points. Let's start with Vasquez. I thought Vasquez was okay on Wednesday. I've said that a couple times now. It is frustrating because in front of goal he did have some chances, and it just was that whisker off. It takes so much precision to score goals in any major professional league, and Vasquez was so very close. I have no issues with the way that Brandon Vasquez played. I hope that it wasn't a blow to his confidence that he wasn't able to finish some of those opportunities, because there was still a positive in the form of him putting himself in position to score those goals. And I thought, it wasn't an assist, a non-assist, because it was a deflection, but the way that he set up the Gressel goal may have been the most important play of the match for Atlanta United in open play on Wednesday. So I think Vasquez, I really hope what happened Wednesday is not a blow to his confidence, because I thought he played well enough to build off that performance, to agree with Kevin. With Pitti, it is just so tough, because I think everyone is expecting him to go out and just take games over and dominate, and he's just one component of the full machine. He's one of 11 parts out there, and I think the criticism of Pitti over the last couple of days, and it's because he missed the penalty, and he should have made the penalty. I mean, that was an awful penalty. I don't pretend that it wasn't, but everything up to that point for Pitti was pretty good. You just hope that Pitti is in a good place mentally where, like Brandon Vasquez, it doesn't turn out to be a blow to his confidence. Quite honestly, I think there were a couple players for Atlanta United Wednesday that really, really struggled that we're kind of not talking about. And I don't put Pitti and Brandon Vasquez on that list. I think if you're Frank, you've really got to look now at Justin Merrim Saturday over Dion Pereira. And it's no disrespect to Dion. I mean, this is a lot that you're throwing on him right now as a 19-year-old in his first couple matches in MLS, a road start when you're 19 years old, coming off that long break in league play. It's a very tough spot, but I thought Dion Pereira really struggled. I thought Julian Gressel took a knock very early in the game, extremely early. Took I don't know if it was studs to the knee or what, but he was never quite the same after that. And as a result, he did score a goal, but I thought Gressel was not as speedy, as fresh, as active as we were hoping he would be coming off a long layoff. So, everyone wants to dwell on Pitti and Brandon, but to be honest with you, Atlanta United needed to get more down the flanks on Wednesday. And to me, tomorrow, I think Justin Merrim is in a great position now to get a start. And maybe then you're in a spot where you could bring Dion Pereira off the bench, because I think you hope that with Pereira, he was going to help you from a speed aspect on Wednesday. And I didn't really think it was evident. I didn't think Atlanta United took advantage of any kind of speed, advantage that they had against Toronto. In fact, I think there were times where Toronto looked faster than Atlanta, which I did not expect. But to go back to your original question, John, no, I mean, I think Brandon, if he's mentally strong enough, and I think he is, I think he'll take what happened Wednesday as a positive for him, because he played well. You would like to see him finish, but we've had frustration watching Joseph be unable to finish from time to time. You can't bat 1,000 in this league.
Yeah, being a striker, you have to have that short-term amnesia in some ways and be able to block that out. And Vasquez was putting himself into good spots. He just wasn't giving you the final product. And that has to change. If he wants to continue getting time, that has to change. That's the job. And we'll see if that changes on Saturday, because the chances were there. And that's always the number one issue. If you're getting the chances, okay, now we can build from there. You've got to convert them. Brandon has to do a better job of that. Pitti has to do a better job of that when he has those opportunities. And we'll see what happens in this one. I'm with you in terms of Montreal sitting back a little bit more. I do think it's a little different, and what they did against Montreal gives you a bit of a snapshot of what they could do coming into Atlanta. they've got a lot of their back line still intact with Camacho, with Diallo, with Cabrera, and Bakary Sagna, who has been a great signing for them, a player who was linked to Atlanta at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But Bakary Sagna has been outstanding for them in a wingback kind of role. Yuka Rayatala, they thought they were going to lose him to international duty. They didn't. He's on the left side. You've got a back five that's pretty solid. Instead of looking really truly 5-4-1-ish against Portland, they looked a little more like a 5-3-2 in some ways, with Safir Taider being the one that was the back and forth. You're missing Samuel Piet, which is maybe the biggest miss that they have right now, because he would be your lockdown 6. You don't have him. Krolicki and Shom were your 2 central midfielders, with Taider helping as needed. For me, this match comes down to Safir Taider from the Montreal perspective. He's been the guy who has stepped up with Nacho Piatti out. He's been the guy who stepped up into kind of a leadership captain kind of role, getting big goals, which he really wasn't brought here for, but also leading by example. He's the one that Atlanta has to shut down. And when we look at this midfield battle, we talked about it in Toronto, that on paper Atlanta had that advantage. It didn't really play out that way. They have to take care of Safir Taider in this one, or Montreal will be able to create opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. You know, as you're saying all that, I'm thinking back to the 2 meetings last year between Atlanta and Montreal. In July, up in Montreal, Atlanta scored twice, and both goals were in transition. The goal in the first half, I forget who had the assist, but remember, it was Joseph in an offside position, stopping his run, the play continuing, then resuming his run and putting a cross home in transition. Second half goal was, I think, Franco Escobar with a really, really good strip on the near touchline, and then putting the ball on frame. Bush spills the rebound, ball knocked around a little bit. Joseph puts it home. Goals in transition. The match in Atlanta, you did have Almiron hit a penalty. You had Kratz with 2 free kicks, but these were opportunities created because of fouls in transition. So it's vital for Atlanta United to really get the running game going on Saturday and get out and try to ask them questions in transition. And a lot of that will come down to coming up with steals, really. I mean, for lack of better terms. And a lot of that's going to start in the midfield. So it's going to be very important for Eric Remedi. If Jeff Lorenowitz is to start, very important for him. And I wouldn't be shocked if Lorenowitz did start. I'm really wondering what Julian Gressel's status is for Saturday, guys. I mean, I know he finished out the match. Well, he didn't finish out the match in Toronto. Excuse me. He came off in about 75 minutes. He just did not look right to me. And if he's going to be out, then I think you're looking at a Nagbe, Remedi, Lorenowitz midfield with Pitti and Justin Miram up top with Brandon Vasquez in the 4-3-3. You're going to get Escobar back, which is huge. You haven't won a league game without him this year. Then your question at left back would be Parkhurst or Shea. I think you'd probably go with Shea. I think Parkey probably gets a break. And then obviously your center backs are fine. But it's going to be a very, very important match for Lorenowitz if he does get the start, if not Gressel, Remedi and Nagbe, to give Atlanta United more than they gave them Wednesday night in the midfield, because Atlanta United did not win that battle on Wednesday, somewhat surprisingly.
Now, you look at the other side, Montreal, they are training right now before traveling to Atlanta this afternoon. Remy Gard hinted to local media, Tristan Demors, who writes for Pro Soccer USA, tweeted this out a little bit ago. Gard hinted that they might have to make an emergency signing because of availability of field players for this one. And they had to do that right before the international break. They've got a number of guys out on international duty, but also due to injury. Luca Ricci was that player. He's still involved. He's still training with the team. Maxi Urruti is the one that is not training this morning, and that could be what changes this and why they have to field or have to sign an emergency player.
Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, I mean, that's huge. But Atlanta United, I don't know why. I don't know if it's just coincidence or whatever. Boy, they have had problems against teams that are shorthanded. We saw it Wednesday, saw it at the end of last year in Toronto, saw it at the end of the last season at Red Bulls. I mean, when BWP was out, that for whatever reason, they have really had problems against teams that you look at them on paper and you say, oof, boy, they're really shorthanded. How are they going to be able to pull this off? And they find a way to kind of catch Atlanta United a little bit. And I think it's more a coincidence than anything. I don't think it's a referendum on mindset or anything. It's just a coincidence. But boy, oh boy, I mean, here we could potentially go again now with Montreal really, really feeling it, as Toronto was. But, Toronto, their best player in that match was a USL player, Schaffelberg. And the goal scorer, Endo, was making his first MLS appearance of the season. So just because they're an emergency signing or they're coming up from USL or whatever, doesn't mean they don't belong. It just means they haven't had the chance. And you've got to take guys like that very seriously.
Well, Mike, then let me ask it this way. Is the comparison there like in baseball where you get the pitcher coming up from AAA for the emergency start? You've got all the information, but until you face that pitcher who ends up giving up 1 earned run in 5 innings and handcuffing you, your first time and a half through the lineup. I mean, to me, that's the analogy that sometimes we seem to face here.
Could be. I have to plead a little ignorance. I have not watched the Montreal-Portland match yet. Today is my first day back in the office, so I'm going to try to look at that later today. I did spend a lot of time earlier this week looking at Montreal's match that they played before the international break against Seattle Sounders, which they won 2-1 on, June 5th, I think. And Montreal only had 4 outfield players on the bench in that match.
They had an emergency signing for that one.
Right. And I think it was Luca Ricci, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Ricci.
Yeah, but he did not play.
Right.
And that's the thing. Like, I think now Maxi Urruti being out is a new wrinkle. But, just because you're short on your bench doesn't mean you still can't find 11 guys to go out there and play. Ironically, in that match, Seattle only had 4 outfield players on their bench. They dressed a third goalkeeper, which I don't remember seeing a whole lot. I don't know what the reason was.
For fill a spot. There's no reason. Yeah. It's just there's a spot. So, go ahead, dress, hang out.
But to your point, John, like I'm trying not to dwell on this too much because I think Montreal can still find 11 regulars to put out there tomorrow. Where you would start to get into trouble is you're playing your second match in 4 days. You've had travel. Obviously, Atlanta United has had travel too. Legs can get heavy, and that's where you do get concerned where you could be reluctant to make subs if you don't trust the guys on your bench.
Yeah, that's the option, or that's the issue, is you don't have options. You're limited. Right. If Maxi Urruti is out, if there's an injury and he can't go, you're probably going to Anthony Jackson Hamel, who's a good player in this league, a player that I feel like is capable of getting more time with the Impact. But you don't really have options to spell players who played on Wednesday. You don't have a lot of options to really change much when you get there, and you're going to be asking guys to go out again and give you something again, where Atlanta does have options with Franco Escobar coming back in, Justin Merrim potentially coming into the team. They have some different possibilities for fresh legs. That's where it starts to catch up for Montreal.
Right. Well, and Remy Gard made a very late sub on Wednesday. He took Aquanquo out at 70. Shom came out at 86, and that's it. So you're looking at a bunch of guys that had to go 90 minutes plus stoppage time on a humid night in Montreal. They had weather problems up there. And now turn around and you're going to ask him to give you another 90 minutes on Saturday. But again, I'm not necessarily sure this is any type of advantage for Atlanta United because they're kind of in the same spot right now. I anticipate we'll see a 7-man bench tomorrow.
Yes, you
did it in Toronto.
I feel safe about that pick.
But you know what, though? I'm not 1,000% certain of that.
No, you'll see 7 on the bench. You'll see 7 on the bench. You
okay,
will.
We'll see.
I would be absolutely shocked if that doesn't happen.
We will see. I'm just wondering about injuries and then any other potential decisions that could come that we might learn of today that could maybe leave Atlanta United short of 18 available players. They could always, I guess, have a third goalkeeper. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I just have a weird feeling that we'll see. We will see.
I hope the weird feeling is because you're saving the victory donut. I'm really hoping that's what it is.
There you go.
And it's nothing else. It feels like a match, reading back about the Seattle match for Montreal, Saphir Taider kind of challenged the group a little bit and said, look, we're about to go on a break. It has to be better. We can't lose, because they lost 3-0 to Orlando in a really bad loss. That's their one loss in their last 4. Taider challenged them. They stepped up against Seattle. Then they get the performance against the second team, Portland Timbers, on Wednesday. It feels like you need someone from Atlanta to step up after the Toronto match and have that conversation training today before the match tomorrow. You need a response to what happened in Toronto on Wednesday, and I would expect it. I don't know who's going to be that person to step up, and that'll be interesting. But it feels like this is a response kind of match for Atlanta.
Yeah, and that could be Leandro. It could be Parkhurst.
Could be.
I mean, it could be one of a couple different
could
guys.
Could be a few folks, yeah.
I think the good news is those types of guys exist in this dressing room. One of the problems, just to put my NBA hat on for a moment, one of the problems that Hawks team that won 60 games in 2015 had was they didn't have a strong voice in the locker room. It was not Paul Millsap. It was not Al Horford. It was kind of, believe it or not, on that team even, Kent Bazemore, who didn't play a whole lot. And as such, it didn't really give him a lot of, leverage to be that type of guy in that dressing room. But you need to have one of those players that can raise his voice a little bit and get your attention. And I think the good news for Atlanta United is they don't have a shortage of those players. Teams that don't have those types of players are teams that usually run into trouble very, very quickly when the going gets tough.
It's going to be a big one. Tomorrow we're on the air 5:30. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
5:30, Five Stripes Countdown. Kickoff just after 6. It's a Fox Sports Southeast game. So it should be a 6:08. Well, maybe 6:10 kickoff because we have 2 anthems. Somewhere in the 6:08, 6:10 region.
And I don't like predicting games on which I work, but I can predict a game on which I'm not working. And I think the USA gets it done in penalties today, 1-1.
Ooh, that's the first U.S. in penalties prediction we've had.
Yeah, I don't know if my heart can take it because I'll be watching with Mike Bell, and he usually has a unique brand of analysis during stuff like that. So I might have to put...
I believe his colorful analysis will be...
Yeah, the problem is I can't put him on mute, so pray for me if it gets to that point.
Good luck. Good luck, and hopefully the victory donut is a tasty one.
I hope so. See you tomorrow, guys.
All right, Mike Conti. Make sure you're following him, Mike Conti 929 on Twitter. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back with Doug Robertson live from the Atlanta United training ground with some updates, and Doug broke some news yesterday. We're going to talk about that as well. Be right back after this.
Today's show is presented by ATLUTD Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. 888-688-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, June 28th. It is a Five Stripes Friday preview edition. Atlanta and Montreal tomorrow at the Benz. 6 o'clock kick, probably actually somewhere between 6:08 and 6:10. Doug Robertson will be there. Doug Robertson is right now at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground getting ready to speak to some players and speak to Frank DeBoer. But, Doug, you broke some interesting news yesterday over at the AJC. Emerson Heineman is potentially going to join Atlanta United. They are, according to your article, discussing a contract. Do you have any updates?
No updates on it just yet. It likely will be a bit, I would think. Simply because they don't have to. The transfer window doesn't open until July 9th.
Right.
So they've got, a week or so to get things settled. But I expect that, as they get a little bit closer, hopefully I can get some more reporting done and get some more information and have some more news for the people. And I would be surprised if that's their only move, because they do have 2 slots open right now, and they do have a couple of positions of need. So I don't think Heineman is going to be the only player coming in. I don't have any info just yet on who the other player is. I was kind of given a tip by someone, a general tip that I need to do some more research on before I want to say anything about who it could be.
It's that time of year. It's the silly season is about to get really silly, and I feel like this window in particular in MLS could be one of the most active summer windows we've seen. It's just a situation where, I mean, you're getting rumors right now. Ivis Galarsep talking about Freiburg making offers for Cole Bassett from the Colorado Rapids. You're getting young players who are maybe more in the eye of European clubs than ever before, and you've got MLS teams that are more willing to spend than ever before. So it feels like this summer could be kind of wild.
Yeah, I agree. At the same time, it could be teams could kind of hold off just a little bit until they get the parameters of the new CBA, because they can make a move this summer that turns out maybe they didn't need to make, or they could have done something a little bit differently with the contract to better fit their needs. It's going to be interesting. I think you might see more players going out than coming in, I guess, probably the better way to put that.
Well, and Doug, in the limited history of Atlanta United and looking at MLS on a day-to-day basis, I think that what this does in a larger picture is give everybody with this crazy summer silly season coming up a glimpse at just how MLS is being regarded that much more highly over the last couple of years when it comes to the world marketplace, where you're having discussions in your articles about guys who are sought after, whether it's an Emerson Heineman or, people are lumping him and Luca De La Torre in the same kind of discussions for players who they'd like to have come back home. But I think it speaks a lot to how MLS has grown in the world marketplace in just a very short period of time.
Yeah, I agree with that. We'll just have to see. It's going to be, with the DPs and the TAM and everything, a lot of teams' hands are tied. So, I don't know how somebody does a really good job. I need to go find their work of figuring out how much discretionary TAM that Atlanta United has. I'd like to go look it up to try to figure out what Atlanta has to spend, because their DP slots are gone. I mean, they can't do anything with those right now. None of those guys can be bought down. There was a report a while ago that MLS could add more DP or young DPs next year, which would change a lot of teams, could potentially change a lot of teams' thinking as to how they're going to approach their roster building. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting summer.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's going to be hectic, and I think different teams are going to handle things differently. I do think there's going to be a lot of guys that are on the way out, because I think you have more clubs worldwide that are interested in MLS talent and feel like it's a good market to shop in, and how teams deal with those situations. You know, Colorado, for example, Cole Bassett, Houston, Albert Ellis. You know, how are you going to replace these players is going to be a big question for some teams who've never really been in that type of situation before. We'll have plenty of time to talk about the window, I think, as it goes. The match on Saturday, we're in this time frame right now where everybody is playing a lot of games in a short period of time, and we're going to see lots of weird results and different managers handling things in different ways. Giovanni Savarese went to Montreal and didn't take a lot of his first-choice players. Montreal got the win. Montreal potentially might have to make an emergency signing for Saturday's game, with reports out of Toronto or out of Montreal's training this morning. They've been shorthanded for a little while now with injuries and international call-ups. It's just a weird time as you look at matches. We're in a very unpredictable part of the season.
Yeah, that's very true. Atlanta United was missing several players at Toronto, but Toronto was also missing several players. They had a debutant come in who just torched Atlanta United's right side for a good bit of the first half until Frank DeBoer made a tactical change. So in addition to teams having to make some interesting signings and putting out some interesting lineups, it also affects game planning, because you just don't know anything about the players that can be coming in. Atlanta United doesn't really have that issue. There's enough film, I think, on most of their guys that opponents can plan a little bit. But I don't know where Atlanta United was supposed to get information on the left fullback for Toronto. Name starts with S. I can't remember his name right now. But he had a heck of a first half for Toronto going against Parkhurst, for example.
Oh, Schaffelberg.
Schaffelberg. That's right. Yeah.
And, you know, when you're looking at Atlanta United, obviously still no Joseph, and the other elements. No Barco. Escobar looking like he's going to be back in rotation.
He should be. He only missed the Toronto game because of yellow card accumulation.
Right. So you're looking at this kind of a rotation, and you look at a guy like Justin Miram, who will be a part of these lineups in this schedule compression where you're looking at 9 matches in a month kind of a thing. This is why guys like Justin Miram were brought in. You're looking at that experience to get you through these kinds of situations and these kinds of just months that are out of control when it comes to scheduling. These are the months, and this is the kind of scheduling that Atlanta United, with Darren and Carlos and everybody, they brought in all these guys like a Breck Shea and a Justin Miram for this kind of situation.
Yeah, and I think should the Heinemann negotiations go well, I think that's another reason he would be brought in, is to try to provide some depth, to give a guy like Nagby or Gressel, if he continues to play in the middle, just some break and some competition. I was a little surprised that Miram didn't start at Toronto. I think you probably will see him start against Montreal, because Pereira, after that first start, really hasn't done much in the past few starts. So I think you're going to see Miram go on Saturday.
So over these last 3 matches for Atlanta, including the 2 Open Cup matches, since the break where the team had 5 days away, it's been a little choppy. It's been a little up and down. I think when they've looked good, they've looked very good, and when they've looked bad, you've seen some mistakes that we really haven't seen in this team since the first month of the season. You know, is it just a matter of of all the absences, all the different kinds of lineups, all the different personnel, what needs to change for you other than just playing matches at this point and trying to rediscover a rhythm?
Yeah, I think it's just playing matches, getting some chemistry down. That first goal that Toronto scored was just an odd one. Parkhurst made what looked to be a good tackle, but the ball just bounced right to a Toronto player. And then there was another deflection on the cross. The second goal was not a good goal to give up. Pozuelo got in between Miles Robinson and Leandro, and the cross came in from that player we were talking about before. Hit a good cross. The third goal should not have been a goal. It was a horrible call by Alan Kelly, horrible miscall by VAR and Michael Kelly. The whole thing was just mismanaged, I thought. And Atlanta United did have chances. Brandon Vasquez had quite a few chances in front of goal. He just couldn't put any of them on. But to be fair to him, it was only his third start in the past, few months with Atlanta United. I think if he starts again on Saturday, and I'm almost certain he will, you'll probably see at least more shots on goal and probably the same number of chances that he had against Toronto. So it's just a matter of chemistry. And, you know my feelings on Pitty and his 30 to 35-yard shots. I think if they can rein some of those in and just create some more passes and try to create some more opportunities, that is going to be more of a benefit too.
But let me play the flip side to what you were just talking about when it comes to PT. If you see an opportunity, and I'll use the Wayne Rooney 67-yarder as the extreme in this case, if you see a keeper off his line, if you see an opportunity in a given moment, what is wrong with launching from, say, 25-28 if you think that there's a window there, just in general?
I wouldn't mind it, except he's not putting them on goal. I mean, I'm not his coach, so my opinion doesn't matter. But when you keep taking these 25, 30, 35-yard shots and you're not putting them on goal most of the time, like 1 out of every 4, 1 out of every 5, you're just giving away possession. You're not creating a chance for the goalie to spill it. You're not giving your team any advantage whatsoever, because these are just low percentage shots. And he just keeps taking them. He keeps not putting them on goal, keeps costing his team possession. And when the team is having trouble scoring, you can't give away the ball like that. That's my issue with it.
You got to pick your spots.
He's not making up for it with his effort on defense either. And that's another problem I have that people are getting tired of me talking about on Twitter. But, I mean, Michael Parkhurst, as we talked about on the Southern Fried Soccer podcast, I thought was hung out to dry a little bit in the first half, because Pitty started as the right midfielder, and Pitty was not coming back for the most part. Did it a couple of times, but not coming back on defense. Now, part of that was a result of a tactical change where it looked like he was told to stay up and be a second striker with Vasquez. But then at some point, somebody has got to slide over and give Parkhurst help. But it started with Pitty not giving him much help.
Yeah, it was disjointed.
The second goal, for example, Parkhurst stayed back on that cross because I think he thought Pitty was going to get there, and Pitty didn't get there to pressure the crosser. He got there like a half second late. By then, the ball was already put into a dangerous spot in front of goal.
It was disjointed, and I'd like to know, what the instruction was at that point. Was it no, stay high, even if you are in the wing position? Parkhurst is going to stay back more. Is somebody else supposed to rotate over and slide? The midfield as a whole, and the three in the midfield in this one, I thought it would be a game that they could dominate, and they were consistently pulled out of position. Some of it, you'll give Alejandro Pozuelo, a player who was playing up top, but a little bit as a false nine, dropping in. That was throwing people off, but it was way too much for too long. Got better in the second half with a halftime adjustment, but the start was shaky because of that, because the positioning, and Pitty was part of it for sure. I thought the positioning was bad all the way around, and it never really changed until halftime, where it did improve dramatically. Those are the things that can hurt you at this point, and those are the things that can hurt you against a team like Montreal and a player like Safir Taider, who is in a little bit of a unique role at the moment as Montreal is trying to piece together a team. Taider, for me, is the player that Atlanta has to keep an eye on and has to contain. he's the one that can really hurt you for the impact. What else, when you look at Montreal right now, Doug, is a concern for you for Saturday?
They just seem comfortable with what they're doing. And I think that goes a long way to getting results. I mean, they're not very good, frankly, at anything, but they're comfortable with whatever the manager is asking them to do. I mean, you look at their stats and you can't figure out how in the world they are second or third, whatever they are in the East right now. So I've got to go back and look at the standings. But they're above Atlanta United. I know that. It's an interesting thing. I don't know if it's sustainable. I've read other stories. They don't think it's sustainable, but at the same time, they don't have Piatti. And when he comes back, he could very well make it sustainable. They're just an interesting team right now. Safir Tater, as you said, is having a fantastic season for the Impact. I mean, I'm looking at right now, 23 goals scored, 29 goals against. They have a -6 goal difference. Now, a lot of that came from one game. But they have 30 points. That's just unbelievable.
They've had some weird results. They feel like a team that, and this is so strange with that such a high goals allowed number, that they are a good defensive team. And you look at what they do, and I think in this game especially, I think they'll play a line of 5 really similar to what they did on Wednesday, because they just don't have personnel to change it up too much. They really don't. Unless you want to go to a line of 4 and play a 4-5-1 and maybe pull one defender to give you something off the bench and pull another midfielder in. Camacho, Diallo, Cabrera, 3 good center backs. Rayatala and Sanya are doing the job as wing backs. That's a good defensive core to work from. You're missing Samuel Piette, which hurts you a ton because he's one of the better defensive midfielders in the league. I'm just really curious as to what Remy Gard is going to piece together with this lineup on Saturday. He doesn't have a ton of choices, and he might have to make another emergency call-up to have another extra player on the bench. It's just one of those weird games where Atlanta has to block all that out and look at what Montreal did on Wednesday and figure out how they can attack it. When we get into predictions, this is a tricky one for that reason. Jarrett Smith, before we lost him, 2-0 was his prediction. He feels pretty confident about this one. John, how are you feeling about this one?
Relatively confident, but I think it's going to take a while. I think that Tydair gets one. I think Atlanta United get 2. I think it's a 2-1 win.
2-1 win. Do you fall behind first, or do you get the first goal?
You get the first goal. Tydair gets his to make it 1-1. Then you find one probably in the 53rd or something like that to make it 2-1, and then it's a back and forther for the rest of the 40 minutes.
All right. Make sure if you guys out there listening want to chime in, check out the Bailey Daily poll, our weekly prediction of each Atlanta United match. You can join into that. It's presented by ATLUTD and Associates, as are our tailgate shows, and we'll be live from the Gulch tomorrow at 2 o'clock to get ready for Atlanta and Montreal. Doug, what are you thinking about this one?
I think a 1-1 draw is what I think.
What kind of draw? Do you think it's going to be a come-from-behind draw where you feel okay about it, or you give up a goal late and you feel really bad about it?
I think Montreal will score first, and Atlanta United will get another one, but Montreal will bunker to get that point and get out with a point.
I could see that happening. I could see them really trying to put the numbers behind the ball. And you think back to last April where they did get that early goal, where Atlanta fell asleep on a throw-in. They give up the goal, and Montreal had already come into bunker, and that just reinforced the bunker. And it took set pieces from Kevin Kratz, who will not be available to relive that magic. It took set pieces to break through, plus you started to open them up a bit as the day went on. I could see a scenario somewhat like that where it takes a while to break through. Hopefully you don't give up the first goal in this one. That's my biggest concern. You have to start better. It has to be a better start. You can't give up a sloppy early goal because right now you don't have Joseph Martinez to bail you out. You are going to have to work harder to find those chances. I think it's a 1-0 Atlanta win. I think it's very tight. I think Montreal will feel the effects of not having a bench, playing on Wednesday night, really no opportunity for much rotation in terms of strong quality here. And I think Atlanta finds a goal through Pity Martinez. He has to step up. He has to, because this is a game where no Barco, no Joseph, no Villalba. Julian Gressel, I'll be curious to hear if he's feeling any effects from Wednesday. Took a couple of kicks. We'll see where he's at. It feels like a game where Pity has to show it. And a lot of people, and I mean, Doug, your mentions have had it. My mentions have had it. I think everybody's had it. There's a lot of questions about Pity Martinez, and after the penalty miss, this feels like the kind of game where you need your star player to bounce back.
I don't disagree, but I'm not trying to be mean, but if the team has to count on Pity to win this game, there's just not a lot of evidence that is going to happen, at least not from this season. He really hasn't played particularly well at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, outside of a few spurts here and there. I don't know how much the turf still affects him. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it's a tough spot with all the absences, and you were really hoping after the U20 World Cup you'd have Barco back, and his absence is probably being felt the most right now. You knew you were going to be missing Joseph, so that was what it was. Barco was unexpected, and it's cost you. And if it's not Pity, then it's going to have to be someone stepping up to replace a lot of the attacking firepower that you've had. Pity should be that guy. That's one reason you bring him. Otherwise, you're looking at a Justin Merrim, a Dion Pereira, Julian Gressel, a Brandon Vasquez. Somebody's got to get a goal for you in this one, because there's not going to be a lot of goals on hand, I don't think. I think it's going to be a tight one. Doug, let us know what you got coming up over at the AJC. I know you're going to have some tweets here from media availability. What other articles are you working on between now and the rest of the weekend?
Well, I just posted my predicted 11 for Atlanta United against Montreal here on Saturday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You can find that at Doug Robertson AJC on Twitter or on Facebook at Atlanta United News Now. We'll see. I don't think we're going to get any injury news today. I do want to ask Frank about if Andrew Carlton is going to receive any more disciplinary action for not having his passport ready for the plane trip to Toronto for Wednesday's game. We can ask him about potential signings, see if he has any more updates on any of that. And then just how has the team looked on a flight home Thursday and training today mentally after that really disappointing finish, twice disappointing finish against Toronto.
Yeah, double gut punch after that one. Well, we'll be talking to you tomorrow, be on Southern Fried Soccer after the match. And, man, this is a busy stretch. You need to start better than you did on Wednesday. This is maybe a more important game than we expected when we started to look ahead.
Yep, that is true.
All right, make sure you're following Doug Robertson, AJC, on Twitter right now if you're not following him, because I feel like there could be some quotes out of media availability, because Doug has a lot of questions, as everybody does right now. There's a lot of things to ask about. It's a busy time. Doug, thanks for the time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
We're going to take a quick break, come back. We'll get to some of your questions on Twitter to wrap up a very busy Friday show right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Final segment. Soccer Down here, June 28th. All the things on a Friday. U.S. Women's National Team kickoff right around 3 o'clock from Paris in the Women's World Cup quarterfinal against the hosts, France. Biggest Women's World Cup match outside of a final ever, I would say. There's been some conversation about U.S.-Germany in the semis. Oh, and I think it's the quarters, actually, in 99. I think the semi was Brazil in that tournament. I don't remember this kind of hype. It was a big game. I don't think it was quite to this level of anticipation. And honestly, since the 99 final and the last final, I can't think of a game that going in had this type of anticipation. Not even the 11 final had this, and the 11 tournament is mostly remembered for the game against Brazil in the quarters with the great comeback. Didn't have the same hype going into it. This feels special. This feels like a big deal. This feels like any knockout round game that the men have had. It has that level, honestly, even more. I mean, I'm more into this one than probably the Belgium game was in 14, just because that team felt like it was hanging on at that point. You had the biggest moment for the men in that tournament was game 1. You lost the lead against Portugal and sacrificed 3 points. Germany just kind of beat you into submission, and then you're going into the game with Belgium, and there wasn't a ton of optimism in that one. There was optimism in 2010 going into the game with Ghana coming off of the Landon Donovan goal heard around the world. There was excitement going into that. That would be along these lines for me. 2002 going into the quarters against Germany, had that kind of feeling. So this is, even beyond gender, this is one of the biggest matches for a U.S. national team in history. It's that kind of day. It's going to be a lot of fun watching this one. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, it does. No, I was just going to say it does have that added oomph or depth or whatever word you want to use to it. And if I'm not mistaken, it was 20 years ago today that we had the final at the Rose Bowl, the Brandi Chastain match.
Yeah,
20 years ago today.
And that had a ton of excitement coming into it because it's a final. It's the Rose Bowl. It's packed. It's U.S. on home soil trying to win the World Cup for the second time. The match was a bit of a slog, a bit of a grind. They happen in finals. They happen in knockout round games. That could happen here. I would not be surprised if it is a very, very tense, narrow affair. I mean, you look back to U.S. and Spain from earlier this week, and there were 3 shots on target in the game, and 2 of them were penalties from the U.S. It was an incredibly tight, tense match, and you could see that again here. You could also see a game that gets blown open a little bit. That's where these are so difficult to predict. An early goal, I think, would go a long way to opening things up in this one. The longer it stays scoreless, I think the more you are looking at extra time and maybe even penalties. I think the U.S. gets it done in extra time, but man, this is going to be a very interesting U.S. soccer kind of day today.
Yeah, it is. And obviously, I will not be in the office watching this one. I will be going out into the sunshine.
That's frightening.
I know. So maybe we can get a little vitamin D in the system and fight back the gray hairs. You want to go through Twitters?
Let's hit the Twitters.
All right. Daniel Price says, the boss asks, how do I break my husband's soccer addiction? I think I'm a lost cause. No hope there. And also breaking news from Daniel Price and the boss. They will be having an addition to the family coming January 2020, a baby girl, announcing to the world today.
Wow. Congrats, Daniel Price and Daniel Price's boss.
Yes. He is hoping that the baby girl will evolve into a possible women's national team star one day. So that's good news from Daniel, and congratulations.
Well, maybe there will be a Smith and a Leafy and a Price on the women's national team in a couple decades.
Oh, that'd be yeah. Could you imagine the influence from this show on that women's national team? Mr. Green has the women's national team winning 4-1, Atlanta United winning 2-0. Women's national team will be up 3-0 at the half.
Wow.
Bold.
Wow. I got nothing about that. If that happens, Twitter will fall apart today. It will completely and utterly just collapse in upon itself. And then you will see something that I don't think anybody wants to see. Last night on the Twitter show, Women's World Cup Now on Fox.
Oh, no.
Alexi Lalas.
Yeah, I saw.
This is the quote. I'm just going to read it. If the U.S. win tomorrow, I will put on a wedding gown and I will pose for a picture in front of the Eiffel Tower. Why? Why? Why?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want that.
Nobody wants that. Nobody ever wants to see that. Alexi, what are you doing?
The only thing missing is him doing a searing guitar solo in said dress.
I mean, if you're gonna, you might as well. I mean, you're doing everything else. You might as well do the Slash November Rain solo in a wedding dress in front of the Eiffel Tower, because it all makes no sense. I mean, I don't understand that level of optimism about France winning this. Could I see France winning this today? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Completely. France was my pick coming into the tournament. They're that good. They haven't shown that in this tournament, though. That's the what we have to talk about. When it comes to this Women's World Cup, does everybody know everything about these teams coming in? No, they don't, because the women's game doesn't get as much coverage. You're not watching these women week in and week out in league play. There's not as many games that some of these national teams are playing. It's a little bit harder to call. We've been watching it for now 4 matches for everybody. If you watch the United States and you watch France through the 4 games in this tournament, there is no giant chasm between the two teams. There isn't. The U.S. has come into the tournament better than they came into it. They've been in the tournament better than they came into it. France has been a disappointment in the tournament based off expected form. That's why I predicted France to win this game before the tournament, but now I do think the U.S. wins today. I think they've looked better. I think they've answered some of the questions. I think France has added more questions. And I do wonder how they handle this pressure. So it's a toss-up kind of game. It is never the kind of game that I'm talking about wearing wedding gowns and posing for pictures in front of Eiffel Towers.
Where are you going to find a wedding dress that big?
I do not want to think about logistics about it. I really don't. That was Alexi's deal. He'll have to figure that out. But this does not feel like Mr. Green's prediction or Alexi's prediction. Either one. I don't feel like either one is an obvious pick here. This is going to be a difficult, close game that could absolutely go either way. I don't know why anyone is confident to that degree on either side.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, okay, you go right ahead there. Not that this is going to be a slugfest for me. This is going to take a while for this one to get settled.
So I will I will tomorrow morning have breakfast. Either I will have crepes or I will have Waffle House, depending on who wins.
There you go.
I mean, I'm going to win either way. But that's my crazy big bold statement is if France wins, I will go have some crepes. If the U.S. wins, I'll go to Waffle House. That's it. Because they have American waffles, not Belgian waffles at Waffle House. They had a very big promotion about this in 2014 during the World Cup when the U.S. and Belgium met. I will go have American waffles at Waffle House if the U.S. wins. And I will have crepes if France wins. And I will win either way.
All right. Jim Lepp. I suspect the French will wear out the left side of the U.S. Dunn is quality, but not a left back. Rapinoe hasn't provided adequate support. Pressure down the left. Keeper error results in a return flight to native shores for the UNT.
It's if the U.S. loses here, it's not a failure. First off, I hope that's the understanding. That's why the David versus Goliath stuff has rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. The U.S. loses in this match to the number 4 team in the world. That's not a failure. Not on their home soil. Not in this tournament. Not at all. How they lose is going to be a question if that happens. Now, attacking Crystal Dunn, yes. She's not a left back. So 100%, that's a strategy for France. And getting out wide in general is something France likes to do. So that will be an interesting conversation as the tournament goes on. The thing about wingers in this type of shape providing defensive cover, this is becoming a consistent theme between the U.S. and between Atlanta United. A lot of that's down to the manager's instructions. Is Pity Martinez being instructed to come back and defend or stay high? Because not every team plays this the same way. Is Megan Rapinoe being asked to come back and defend or stay high? We don't know. I'd love to get the impression from the manager as to how that is being instructed. From what I'm seeing both ways, I don't think Megan Rapinoe or Pity Martinez is being asked to come back and defend. I don't think that's part of their job description. Because you see something in a game, don't jump to that conclusion that that's it. Because this is not the old days where if you played wide, like that's just what you do. You have to do that, and there's just no question about it. Pity and Megan are two players that are very talented on the ball, very talented attacking. Do you want them expending their energy defensively? Maybe not. Now, is there times where you're going to have to? Yes, and I think both have. But as a whole, on the rule, are you doing that? I don't know if they're being instructed to be perfectly honest. And I don't know if I would instruct them to be perfectly honest. So keep an eye on that as it goes. In this case with Crystal Dunn at left back, if you're not instructing Rapinoe to come back and defend, you have to have cover provided from the central midfield. And that's where you make up for these situations, where you're going to keep your wingers up high. And in the U.S. case, where you're asking your wingers to be the creative hub, you really want them to stay up high. So how do you make up for not having them track back and defend? Your central midfielders rotate. And in the United States case, for me, I would have Sam Mewis in that kind of role to help Crystal Dunn defend. And I would have Lindsey Horan in that role, or you could flip sides for them either way, and have her help Kelly O'Hara defend. Because you do want Dunn and O'Hara to get forward, but you have to have cover when it is needed. And I don't think that necessarily has to come from Megan Rapinoe, Tobin Heath in the U.S. case.
Yes, this will be must-see TV, and I'm trying to find the number. It was wins, losses, goals against teams, I want to say FIFA Top 20. It was from this morning's article. For those of you that want to get wrapped up into statistics. And scrolling down here. Nothing like doing that to kill time for trying to sit here to make a point when it comes to being wrapped up in numbers for this. So what do? Yes. They put the thing all the way down at the bottom.
This is amazing play-by-play.
Isn't it, though? Oh, that was the other thing that I was supposed to do. I was supposed to do emoji play-by-play.
No, you're not. You're not doing that.
16 games against, undefeated in 30 matches against opponents ranked outside FIFA's top 10 since the 2016 Olympics, outscoring foes by nearly 4 goals a match. 16 matches against quality teams, 9-3-4, scoring only 1.56 goals, allowing 1.13. 2 of those losses came against France. A third matchup ended in a draw. That's why I figured it would be 1-1 heading to penalties today.
One of those losses came against France, not 2.
Okay.
You're looking at the European version of the win, draw, loss scenario when they do it for United States teams, and in MLS it's win, loss, draw. 1 and 2 over the last 3 with France.
All right.
One loss in the last 50, and that loss was the 3-1 to France in January. I mean, my questions, we talked about it at the beginning. Alex Morgan, does she start? What does the starting lineup look like? You're getting a lot of people saying that Julie Ertz should go to the back line here and play Mewis, Horan, and Lavelle in the midfield. I'd be worried about that defensively. A lot of people want to put Sauerbrunn on the bench. I wouldn't to start. I would bring Ertz in to start because for me, that would give you, if you play Sauerbrunn and Dahlkemper at center back and you have Ertz in front, it gives you the flexibility to potentially go to 3 center backs if you need to drop Ertz in and then reshuffle. And you might have to, depending on how this game goes. France, I really want to see how they position Amandine Henry in this one. Henry is a player who, she's one of those central midfielders that can play as a 6, can play as an 8, can play as a 10. And she can do all of the above in the same match. If there's space between the U.S. midfield and backline, Henry is a player who can exploit it and have subtle movements to get into those pockets. That worries me. So how does the game start with lineups and with shapes, and how does it adjust? That's maybe the bigger question. And Jill Ellis is very unpredictable in these situations. We've seen lineups that everybody's like, huh, what? And we've seen ideas that seem to come out of nowhere at times. It worries me as somebody who's been wanting to see this team build to something. But if you're an opponent, it can kind of throw you off a bit, because if she started Ertz on the back line and started that midfield and started Carly Lloyd up top, that would it shock me at this point? No, it wouldn't. No. If she started the same group that started on Monday, wouldn't shock me. If she started Ertz in the midfield and the same back line, but she started Carly Lloyd up top or Kristen Press up top, wouldn't shock me. It's kind of hard to prepare. I want to see how France deals with any crazy lineup scenarios. But I think the game is going to be decided on, does Amandine Henry find space to operate in? Is she able to take advantage of bad positioning, bad shape, bad tactics? She can. Does she? If she does, I think the U.S. is in for a long day. If they're able to rein her in, France becomes far more reliant on scoring through set pieces, which they absolutely can do. As good as the U.S. is on set pieces, France is even better attacking them. I don't want to see a game decided by set pieces. I hope it's through the run of play. I got a feeling set pieces are going to have a big part of deciding who moves on to the semifinals to face England.
And Daniel's also leaning toward 1-1, and then USA winning in penalties, 3-1 Atlanta United, and disappointed about the lack of emoji play-by-play.
That'll be a special bonus edition at like 3:30 in the morning, so go ahead and set your alarm clocks for that, because it will probably take from then until kickoff for John to do the play-by-play on all of the emojis that were posted yesterday about the Atlanta United-Toronto match. It's too much. I've got a game to watch here in a few hours. I'm going to prepare. So we're going to leave that one. That'll be a special Easter egg edition.
Emojis down here.
Yes, emojis down here with John Nelson. Set the notifications on your app. He'll take care of it.
Let's see, fantasy and prize picks.
Fantasy, if you have players that you want in your lineup that were not playing on Wednesday, you need to do it. That's basically where we're at, because there were a bunch of teams that played on Wednesday, and I think a lot of people probably tried to take advantage of the double match week for a number of teams. Your Prize Picks numbers on the Women's World Cup today, some interesting ones. On the France side of things, Henri is a 5. If she scores a goal, she's going to be above that. Le Sommer, who we have not talked about a lot, 4.5. Wendy Renard, 2.5.
Like that.
The Wendy Renard one on a set piece is an intriguing number, or a penalty, because she takes penalties too. 2.5 is really low for her. She is a center back, but she has a lot of goal-scoring opportunities. On the U.S. side, Alex Morgan, 7. Megan Rapinoe, 6.5. Rose Lavelle, 3. Lavelle's the teaser on a 3, because she gets an assist. She's got it. I am tempted to say Morgan under, Lavelle over, Renard over. Those are the 3 that jump out to me with that. MLS numbers on the board for the weekend. We'll hit a couple of them. We talked a lot about Atlanta and Montreal, obviously. Saphir Taider is on a 6. Julian Gressel's on a 4.5. Wayne Rooney, 7.5. Nani, a 7. Wondolowski, a 7. Pozuelo, a 7.5. Raul Ruidiaz, a 7 for Seattle. Freddie Montero, a 6 for Vancouver. Zlatan is a 9 against San Jose.
Under. I like Wando better. I like Wando over and Zlatan under.
I would probably agree with you on Zlatan, but man, this feels like the Zlatan, I'm going to stick it to you kind of game. You want to talk about me, I'm going to stick it to you. It feels like that.
Yeah,
kind
but
of game.
then you have the discord, and I know I'm weighing Cali Classico versus internal discord, and that's why I was saying under.
This guy always does this, though. You get questions, things happen, and then he pops up and has a crazy day. I wouldn't touch it. Christian Nemeth, 4 against Salt Lake. Diego Rossi, 7 against Colorado tonight. Kai Kamara, 7 for Vancouver. Nemanja Nikolic, 2.5. Daniel Royer, 4.5. Royer is an over for me.
Wando's an over.
Royer as an over, I like. Nemeth as an over, I like. Rui Diaz under, I'm kind of feeling. Pozuelo under, I'm kind of feeling. I think Toronto's going to have heavy legs.
Yes.
Those are the ones that jump out to me.
Yeah. Pozuelo under, Wando over, and Royer over.
Ooh, and here's another one for you. From our friends at Prize Picks. No, we're not talking esports today because Copa America's on the board. And you have Venezuela and Argentina today. You have Colombia and Chile. Is that today? Is that tomorrow?
Doubleheader tonight, I think.
Ooh. So, Messi's a 7. Aguero's a 5.5. Matis is a 4.5 for Venezuela. James is a 4.5. Duvan Zapata is a 3.5. Ooh. And Alexis Sanchez is a 6 for Chile. So I would be tempted to go with the Rose Lavelle over, Daniel Royer over, Duvan Zapata over, triple play.
Yeah, Venezuela, Argentina is at 3. Colombia, Chile is at 7.
So they're going to make me flip back and forth between Argentina, Venezuela, and U.S. and France. That's what they're going to make me do.
Check.
That's not cool. Man, busy day. We barely talked about Copa America until now. It's been one of those kinds of Fridays. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We appreciate it. If you haven't signed up for Prize Picks, by the way, use the code SDH. You're going to get up to, you would get $1,000. If you make a $4,000 deposit to Prize Picks, to make some plays, you'd get 1,000 additional if you use the code SDH when you sign up. 25% up to that amount will be matched by Prize Picks when you use the code SDH. You also get a free $25 two-pick play to get you started. So you're kind of wondering, well, I don't know. You hear these numbers, it sounds interesting. Make a deposit. You're going to get some match. You're going to get a free play to see if you can get started. Go to myprizepicks.com or download the app for either iOS or Android. Both are available now. Don't forget, use that code SDH when you sign up. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We appreciate it. Thanks for all the comments all week. We'll be back on Monday to recap all of this stuff. U.S. Women today, Atlanta United tomorrow, MLS all weekend, Copa America, U.S. Men in the Gold Cup on Sunday, Mexico plays on Saturday. All kinds of things Monday morning, 9 o'clock. Thanks, everybody. Mucha plata, y'all.
Atlanta United 2, Loudoun United tonight, ESPN Plus. We are in the Gulch at 2 or 2:30 or somewhere in between tomorrow as well for our pre-match tailgate presented by ATLUTD and Associates and our friends at The Faction. All the soccer, mucha soccer, y'all.